We're going to be learning about the volume of 3D figures. So let's go ahead and see what kind of figures we're going to be looking at today. So first off, we have some vocabulary we need to know. So make sure you write this down. Okay. The first part that we need to know is what a base is. The base is actually what we have exactly two of. So anytime we have some sort of prism, you need to look at it and see where you find two exact shapes, and those are going to be your bases. So you can also use the hint of looking at the name. We name prisms based on their base. So if it's a triangular prism, the triangles are going to be your bases. If it's a rectangular prism, the rectangles are going to be your bases. So let's let's go ahead and look at the next one is height. The height is the distance between the two bases. That's why it's so important for you to identify the bases. If you can find them, then the distance between them is called your height. Okay? Let's look at how do we find the volume. We have a special formula. The formula we use is big B times H, which actually stands for area of the base times the height. And I'm just reminding you that the height again is the distance between the two bases. That's why again, base is super important when we're trying to find volume. Let's go ahead and look at our first example. In our first example, we're going to be looking at a rectangular prism. And I went ahead and drew one for you. It's not that hard to draw, guys. All you can do is go ahead and draw two rectangles and then just connect all the lines. That's basically how I draw it. So here we have the height and we have our area, the area of the base. Our base is the red. Why? Because I have exactly two of these. Those are my bases, and my height is the distance between them. So let's go ahead and apply the formula. We know that the formula is volume equals area of the base times the height. So in this is your first example, we have this shape, and it's an 8 by 10 by 12. So this is a rectangular prism. Remember, if I wasn't sure what the base was, I could look at my name, rectangular prism, and that would tell me that the bases are where I have two rectangles. So I went ahead and shaded in the bases with green. I have this base and this base, and realize that they're not always on top. These are the ones that are my bases because all of these are different. Okay, so here's my bases. My height is the distance between the two greens, so the two bases, and I'm going to use this formula. Let's apply it. So that being said, we know then, anytime we start off volume, I want you to draw the base. My base was this rectangle. So my rectangle is my base, and what are the dimensions of it? Well, if I go back to this one, it was an 8 by 10. So I'm going to write that down. It's an 8 by 10 rectangle. Well, the formula was asking me to find the area of the base. If it's a rectangle, I know that the formula for a rectangle is base times height or length times width. So all I need to do is 8 times 10. I multiply that, 8 times 10, and I get that the area of the base is 80. So I'm halfway done because I already found my big B, my area of the base. Now let's look at the height. The height is the distance between the bases. So here, this red part is the height, and that measures 12. So I'm going to go ahead and put that 12 is the height because that's the distance between the two bases. So I'm going to do 80, plug it in. 80 is my big B, 12 is my height. I multiply, and my answer is 960. Now notice my units. Centimeters cubed. Why are they cubed? Because we're dealing with volume. Anytime we do volume, the units end up being cubed. If it was area, it'd be squared. So that's a rectangular prism. Let's go ahead and look now at a triangular prism. And a triangular prism, again, it's going to be area of the base times the height. And I have a triangular, so that tells me the bases are two triangles. And if I look at it, here's my triangle, here's my triangle. Those were not on the bottom, if you realize. The base does not necessarily have to be on the bottom of the shape. And here, it's on the sides. So make sure you can identify the base. Let's apply it. So in example 2, here's my triangular prism. And we have dimensions of 4, 10, and 6. I have these two bases, which are my green. My height is the distance between them. So my 6 would be the distance between the two greens or the two triangles. I use the same formula, area of the base times the height. And I remember, again guys, that the height is the distance between the two bases. So, that being said, remember, anytime I start a problem, I'm going to start by drawing the base. The base here is a triangle because it's a triangular prism. So my triangle, I copy it exactly as it's here. It's a 4 by 10. I draw it here. And now I can try to solve this. Well, big B is area of the base. How do I find the area of a triangle? We've done this before. We know the formula is base times height divided by 2. So I plug it in. The base of my triangle is 4. The height of my triangle is 10 because I know that my 90 degrees are right there. I plug it in. 4 times 10 is 40. And I'm going to divide by 2. Let's continue. So I know then that it's 40 over 2. And that gives me 20. So I have found my big B. I'm almost done. I need to plug it into my formula. Volume is big B times height. Well, that would be 20. And the height, again, look back at your shape. It's the distance between the two bases. So it would be 6. So I know my height is 6. And so I now just multiply 20 times 6. And I get 120 centimeters, again, cubed, because we're dealing with volume. Last one. Let's take a look now at our last shape we need to know, which is a cylinder. In this shape, we have, again, two bases, except now they're circles because it's a cylinder. And then my height is this red part. The bases are going to be the two greens, which are going to be my circles. Let's look at our first example. Example 3 is with a cylinder. We have the same formula. It's area of the base times the height. So again, area of the base, and remember again, height is the distance between the bases. So here's my shape. I have two bases, my green and my green, the two circles. Okay, the height is the distance between them, so that's my red. Okay, let's go ahead and apply the formula. But before we do, let's identify the base. My base is a circle. And the circle has a measure or radius of 2. So I copy that down, and now I'm going to find the area of the base, because that's my first step. Find the big B. So to find the area of a circle, we know the formula is pi r squared. So pi r squared, okay, this is from when we learned circles. 2 squared is going to be 2 times itself, so 2 times 2, and I get 4. Remember, we always saved pi for dessert, so I'm going to leave it like this because I know I still need to do more with it. Let's continue. In the second part, we have the big B is 4 pi, and I need to find my height, so I look at my shape. The distance between the two circles is 9, so that's what I'm going to plug in for h. So I'm going to do 4 pi times 9. And remember, we're saving pi for dessert. I'm going to wait until the very end. So I just do 9 times 4 is 36 pi. And if I multiply 36 by 3.14, because I'm saving pi for dessert to the very end, my final answer is 113.04. Sorry, that got a little bit erased, but it's 113.04 centimeters cubed because we are dealing with volume.